It's been a while since I've updated you guys on what's been going on, and I have a lot of things to say. Hurt you guys a little bit more. Alright, where do I even begin? Well, I'll start with the good news. My niece is not in a critical state anymore. So she is now stable in a room in the hospital. She's not in the pediatric ICU anymore. And from all intents and purposes, she is back normal. Back to her normal state, I'd say. What's a bit troubling is that nothing much changed. And that is a bit complicated to explain. I'll try my best. So, many years ago, when Isabella had just 1 year old, when Isabella was just 1 year old, she went into a septic shock, and we almost lost her. She ceased breathing. Her face was like purple and everything, and she spent a lot of time without oxygen in her brain, and that ended up developing a very complex case of cerebral palsy, in the sense that many areas of her brain completely shut off. They don't work anymore. And so, since then, it's been a very stagnant uphill battle. I say stagnant because the battle is more for things to not get worse, because they never had any chance of getting better. She would never learn how to speak. She can't swallow anymore. She can't really walk. She can barely keep her head straight. Her eyes function. She can see, but the part of the brain that processes vision is shut off, so she is effectively blind with great functioning eyes. All of that is her standard. Oh yeah, before I continue, she also has Down syndrome, which caused a lot of things. One of them being that she was born with a hollow heart, meaning that while the heart would have 4 sections dividing it, she had none. So oxygen-rich blood and carbon-rich blood was getting mixed all the time. She did surgery to fix that, and now she has the walls in her heart. And while she was recovering from those surgeries, she went into septic shock after a lung infection, which was just a cold, just a regular old cold. She couldn't even fight it, and it took over her whole lung, and then spread to her heart, and then from her heart to her blood and everywhere else, and that would cause the sepsis. Someone going septic means that the infection that's supposed to be localized to one part of the body has now infected multiple parts of the body, and that's causing the body to shut down and die. Continuing, the case that she was having right now was, before we continue to that point, She developed a constant seizures because of it. Her brain was constantly misfiring all the time, and she takes medication for those seizures. Problem is that after one of her yearly, bi-yearly, one of her regular visits to the neurologist, the results of her neural activity were worrisome. And she advised us to take her immediately to a hospital. In the hospital, they made a much more complex exam, and things were horrifying because it was like her brain was constantly like frying. If you saw the exam, the electroencephalogram, I don't know how exactly you would call it in English, but it was ugly. There were oftentimes just black, like, usually there are like lines, that would go up and down, and then like many of those lines going up and down. Yeah, oftentimes those lines were so erratic that it just looked like a black tape very often. And then we went in with heavy medication, and everyone around her was like, look, she might not come back from this. People who often have that don't come back from this. She could die at any moment. So we're giving her heavy medication. We're talking about intubating her. And I believe it was the last video that I posted here on the channel. I was not really there emotionally because I was just trying to process everything. Because at the time that I recorded and posted that video, the news was she could die at any moment. And really, it's been Christmas lately. Not to date this video a lot, but it's been Christmas season around here, and we've been spending Christmas Eve and day in and out of the hospital. So the Christmas Eve, my mother spent the night there. My sister spent the morning and afternoon. And on Christmas Day, I stayed the whole day there in the hospital, 24 hours. I let my mom and my sister enjoy the holiday, and by that time she was already getting a lot better. Oh yeah, why she was getting better? We decided to remove the medication, and because she was not responding to the medication. These strong medication that we were given, that she was like nearly completely out of it, sleeping most of the time. Not that she's very in it. Anyways, very complex case. But after we removed the medication, she went back to normal when it comes to her behavior. When it comes to the electrocardiogram, it was still an absolute mess. So much of a mess that big names in the field were called to analyze what was going on. And they are puzzled and fascinated. It's not very, I don't know. Not even I that was there listening to them talking about this, not even I know exactly, and they don't even know exactly. So, in short, they want to research her, make not more tests, but not give her more medication, but more tests to figure out what's happening. And they are going to write an article about her, about their findings. about the tests and the exams and the medication and her situation. And I'm like, it's like that sick joke, you know, that really bad joke, like when when the doctor comes in with the test results, and the patient says, "All right, doc, what do I have?" And the doc was like, "I don't know. What do you want to call it?" So it doesn't really have a name. It's no one has any reference of what it is or how it is. Nothing. So they're gonna write a paper about her. Like, it's gonna go out on the Brazilian Medical Journal. I don't know if it's national or global, but it's big. It's not like a small regional thing. Like, they made a lot of research to figure out what's going on with her and how to proceed forward, and there is nothing. And she is going to be written about. And that would be the second time that someone writes about our family. I say this with a little bit of pride now, because she's fine. If she was dying and people wanted to write about her, I would have a completely different response to all of that. But seeing that she's doing okay calms me down. And seeing her smiling, hearing her laugh, and seeing that she can fall asleep and wake up and do like her basic necessities. She's still being fed through a tube in her stomach. There's nothing that we can really do about it. But that's the standard that we've been living with ever since she was 1, and she's now 8 years old. So that's our baseline for things are good with my niece. And she will soon be in a medical paper. For now, we are now waiting for the home care. We're now waiting for the home care to go back, because there's also that very annoying thing that her home care provider does, that she has constant home care. Like, her room is basically a hospital room. It has oxygen. It has 24/7 medical staff there. By medical staff, I say the nurse technicians, the infirmary technicians, not necessarily like a nurse and a doctor there, but they're always the people that do the labor work. She has that 24/7, and whenever she goes into a hospital, that kind of shuts down. But everything is still there, because they know that we are going to come back eventually. So it's a lot of work to remove things from there and then bring back. So they keep it there, but it's not active. So the professionals are not there. They've been moved to different patients, and now we have to wait for them to reactivate her home care system, her home care ordeal. So she's now in the hospital, and she's fine. We kind of have to cycle between ourselves to figure out who's going to stay with her for that time. Just to like keep her company, make sure that everything is fine, because we can't really leave her alone. And even if we could, we wouldn't. But yeah, we've been through this before. Last year, she had a similar situation, but it wasn't neurological. Last year. Last year it was an actual lung infection. But just so you realize how fucked up last year's situation was, it started around November, and it lasted out to January of the following year, because she got a lung infection, and then she got better. She wasn't. Oh, it was the end of November, and she was supposed to be released. But while she was in the hospital, she got a different infection. I don't know exactly which one was which, but sort of were different things causing the same type of infection. So let's say, yeah. But I remember now. She went to the hospital with a viral lung infection because she was not causing any secretion, but she was like her O2 levels were very low. She had all the symptoms, just no secretion, no fever. So we got worried, sent to the hospital. It was a viral infection. And then while she was in the hospital, she got a bacterial lung infection. Don't know exactly which one was. I know it was one of the influenzas, but she got it. No, was it? I don't remember now. If I could be wrong about the minute details, but basically she went in with a viral lung infection. In there, got better, was like they were waiting a long time to release her back to her house, and then she got a bacterial lung infection in there. She was in the pediatric ICU, got out of the pediatric ICU, was sent back to the pediatric ICU, and then after she got released from the pediatric ICU, she went back to another room. And by that time, it was Christmas, it was New Year's Eve, and so she only got out in January. This was a much bigger problem because whenever there's an emergency, we don't call a random ambulance. We call the healthcare plan's ambulance, and they're supposed to come with a doctor inside the ambulance, team and the equipment to handle the patient in question. Out of many things that went wrong, for example, they didn't have a doctor in the ambulance they were supposed to have. They didn't have the adapters for the pediatric patients, so they had to improvise with whatever they had to make it smaller to put oxygen in her. But they took her to a hospital that was not covered by the insurance healthcare, by the healthcare insurance provider anymore. It was, but it wasn't anymore. So she technically was not insured for those 3 months that she spent throughout this whole thing. I know that I have I'm speaking in English. I'm expecting an international English-speaking people out there. So it ranked up to around $200,000 to $250,000, American dollars, as of the dollar value of December 2025, in case this changes in the future, I know that if we were in the United States, we would be absolutely fucked, because that would be an exponentially higher number. But that debt, we're not paying, because it wasn't our fault that we went there, and they they couldn't really deny our services. So it's a very big bill that the healthcare insurance will have to pay, but they do have the money. But it was a very stupid back and forth of who's to blame. You know, that three-way, not that three-way, the three-way Spider-Man pointing meme. That was us, the hospital, and the healthcare provider. Like, whose fault is this, and who's gonna pay this bill? In the end, the healthcare provider will pay the bill. I believe it's paying or has paid. This was literally last year, a year ago. But we are used to going to the hospital whenever she gets very ill, and these scares of that she could die at any moment. But this time it felt the closest that she could die at any moment. And basically things haven't changed. She's still in the exact same situation. But she's back to what we call normal. And I don't know, I'll try and read the paper that they publish about her case, because even I want to know what's going on. You know, if they don't know, I don't know. Well, I think so far this has been the longest video that I've ever done, and the most that I've spoken, but I swear, that's all I have to say.